Gina Haspel is Donald Trump's pick to be the head of the CIA, and she was in a Senate hearing over her confirmation. Now, at the time of this recording right now, we haven't had a vote yet. It looks like she's going to squeak by, to be honest, because I think, I know Manchin, corporate Joe Manchin, came out in favor of Haspel. And Susan Collins, I think, is in favor of Haspel. She's viewed as the most moderate Republican that there is in the Senate. So it looks like she's going to squeak by. As of the time of this recording, she has not been approved yet. But during the hearing, she was asked point blank, hey, do you think torture is immoral? Knowing what we know now, and look back at the Senate torture report and all the facts about what came out, do you think it's immoral? Do you think torture is immoral? Listen, there's never been a easier slam dunk question than that. You know how you answer that question? Yes. That's it. That's all you have to say. Yes, torture is immoral. It's easy to conceptualize this if you just change, you know, the people who are doing the torture. So if you say, hey, Iran was just called with a giant torture room, is torture immoral? How quickly do they say yes? How quickly do they say yes? If it's Iran, any enemy government of ours, Al-Qaeda, any situation like that, oh, yes, of course it's immoral. But somehow, if you switch to the CIA, the U.S. government, then there's a question? No, this is the old lesson that your fucking mom taught you when you were like 4. Like, oh, if it's wrong for somebody else, it's wrong for you. That's the whole idea of having an objective standard of morality. You don't set up a different standard for yourself simply because you're you. That is colossally stupid. I mean, mind-numbingly stupid. It's like, oh, what, you think you're just better, so you get to do shitty things, but it's okay because you did it? Like, is it okay to... Is murder immoral? Well, I don't know. What the fuck do you mean, you know? Of course it's immoral. It's immoral if they do it. It's immoral if you do it. But that's not how these people think. They think they're above it. Like, oh, we're above the rules. Rules don't apply to us because we're just great. It really is childish thinking. But so she was asked, hey, do you think torture is immoral? Now, I'm not a big fan of Kamala Harris for a variety of reasons. Namely, she let Steve Mnuchin off the hook, the Goldman Sachs lackey who works for the Trump administration now. And a few other things. I think she's a little bit of a corporate Democrat, so she's a little slimy, but she's trying to play the role of, I'm uber progressive like Bernie. No, you're not. No, you're not. But here she did a wonderful job in this questioning session. Take a look at what Gina Haspel's response was.
One question I've not heard you answer is, do you believe that the previous interrogation techniques were immoral?
Senator, I believe that CIA officers to whom you referred...
It's a yes or no answer. Do you believe the previous interrogation techniques were immoral? I'm not asking, do you believe they were legal? I'm asking, do you believe they were immoral?
Senator, I believe that CIA did extraordinary work to prevent another attack on this country, given the legal tools that we were authorized to use.
Please answer yes or no. Do you believe in hindsight that those techniques were immoral?
Senator, what I believe sitting here today is that I support the higher moral standard we have decided to hold ourselves to.
Can you please answer the question?
Senator, I think I've answered the question.
No, you've not. Do you believe the previous techniques, now armed with hindsight, do you believe they were immoral? Yes or no?
Senator, I believe that we should hold ourselves to the moral standard outlined in the Army Field Manual.
Okay, so I understand that you've not answered the question, but I'm going to move on. The President has asserted that torture works. Do you agree with that statement?
Senator, I don't believe that torture works. I believe that in the CIA's program, and I'm not attributing this to enhanced interrogation techniques, I believe, as many people, directors who have sat in this chair before me, that valuable information was obtained from senior al-Qaeda operatives that allowed us to defend this country and prevent another attack.
Is that a yes?
No, it's not a yes. We got valuable information from debriefing of al-Qaeda detainees, and I don't think it's knowable whether interrogation techniques played a role in that.
That's bullshit. She's totally full of shit. Look at this. This is from the Daily Beast, and it's citing the Senate torture report that was released about 5 years ago, which detailed everything that happened. Quote, when you put detainees through these torture sessions, they will say whatever they can say to get the interrogations to stop, the Senate aide said. The Senate Intelligence Committee reviewed 20 cited examples of intelligence successes that the CIA identified from the interrogation program and found that there was no relationship between a cited counterterrorism success and the techniques used. Furthermore, the information gleaned during torture sessions merely corroborated information already available to the intelligence community from other sources, including reports, communication intercepts, and information from law enforcement agencies, the committee found. The CIA had told policymakers that the Department of Justice had told policymakers and the Department of Justice that the information from torture was unique or otherwise unavailable. Such information comes from the kind of good national security tradecraft that we rely on to stop terrorist plots at all times, the Senate aide said. So, when you torture somebody, they will tell you whatever the fuck they think you want to hear. Of course that's how it's going to work. So, when we got our intelligence as to, oh my God, Saddam Hussein had connections to Osama bin Laden and did 9/11. It was Saddam Hussein. You know how we got that information? Torture. Turns out that's complete and utter bullshit, as everybody acknowledges now. Everybody knows Saddam Hussein had nothing to do with 9/11 and with no connection to Al-Qaeda or Osama bin Laden. But we were told that information because we tortured somebody to try to get that information, and he knew what we wanted to hear, so he told us that. And, you know, other experts have spoken about how I get more with the six-pack in a conversation than I do with torture. Because fundamentally what you want to do is undermine the ideology of whoever the fuck, is your enemy. If they view you as this great Satan, this evil force on the planet, well, it's going to feel a little weird for them when you give them a six-pack or you give them, whatever food they want and you sit down and have a conversation with them. They're going to be like, what the fuck is going on here? Was I wrong about what these people are? This conversation is ridiculous anyway because a lot of the people who we captured and detained indefinitely, by the way, they had nothing to do with terrorism. So this is like multiple layers deep of immoral and unethical. It's immoral and unethical to do the torture in the first place, but on top of that, a lot of the people we tortured weren't even Al-Qaeda, weren't even terrorists. If you read the backstory, for example, of how we got so many people in Guantanamo, Bush and Cheney cut a deal with Afghanistan and Pakistan warlords to send us people who they thought were Al-Qaeda, but in reality, those warlords are not all that trustworthy, and they just sent us whoever the fuck their enemies were, whoever they had a beef with. So, and this is another reason why indefinite detention should not be a thing. It shouldn't be a thing because you need to have a process in place, and the process is there for you to ascertain whether or not you have the right people. That's why you're supposed to have... That's what an enlightenment society is based on. Innocent until proven guilty. You have a process. You give them people their day in court. You give them a fair hearing so you know whether or not you get the right people. The idea you just fucking, take the word of a fucking Pakistan warlord. What the fuck is wrong with you? But that's what they did. And then not only did they trust their word, they tortured those people and then they covered it up. That's what Gina Haspel did. So... she's asked a very straightforward question. Hey, and Kamala Harris did use weasel words there. Were the techniques immoral? No, say it. It's fucking torture. All this enhanced interrogation bullshit. The same shit that the media did. We're going to call it enhanced interrogation because Bush wants us to call it that. Fuck you. You would instantly call it terrorism if the exact same tactics were used by another country, an official state enemy of the United States. You would instantly call that terrorism. But when we do it, we're the good guys. So we got our techniques that we used from a communist Chinese manifesto on how to torture. And somehow the media and the Democrats were walking on eggshells like, maybe it's enhanced interrogation. It's from a manual on how to torture, you fucking spineless bitches. Okay, but let me remind you of what exactly was done. Gina Haspel not only knows about this, she partook in it. She did torture, literally. They say here in the Senate torture report, this is from the Daily Beast, interrogations lasted for days on end. Detainees forced to stand on broken legs or go 180 hours in a row without sleep. A prison so cold, one suspect essentially froze to death. The Senate Intelligence Committee is finally releasing its review of the CIA's detention and interrogation programs, and it is brutal. Forced rectal feeding, and worse. At least 5 detainees were subject to rectal feeding or rectal hydration without any documented medical need. You don't say. While IV infusion is safe and effective, one officer wrote, rectal hydration could be used as a form of behavior control. Others were deprived of sleep, which could involve staying awake for as long as 180 hours, sometimes standing, sometimes with their hands shackled above their heads. Some detainees were forced to walk around naked or shackled with their hands above their heads. In other instances, naked detainees were hooded and dragged up and down corridors while subject to physical abuse. That's assault. At one facility, detainees were kept in total darkness and shackled in cells with loud noise or music, and only a bucket to use for waste. So, listen. The main point is this. Oftentimes, the law and order crowd, the Republicans like to shriek about that, they believe in law and order less than anyone. Because if you really believed in law and order, this would be thing number one that you flip out about. Our government is torturing. Our government is killing innocent people. By the way, we also got no information out of this. What the... If you really believe in law and order, you believe in it across the board. You don't just believe in it for people you don't like. So you have to follow those same laws. And they don't do that. And now you know exactly what went on. By the way, rectal feeding, that's just rape. They anally raped people. No medical need. Of course there's no medical need. It's not a thing, rectal feeding. The fuck out of here. So they anally raped people. Anal rape torture. And again, a lot of the people, totally innocent. So she did this torture. And then she destroyed the tapes that was the evidence against them. Because she knew that it was illegal. And now, what does she say? She refuses to say it's immoral. She refuses to say it's unethical. Well, the legal parameters at the time, and we were just following orders. Oh, you were just following orders. Where have I heard that one before? Wow, let me stop and think. We were just following orders, so obviously we're not culpable here. Instead of being at a hearing to determine whether or not she's the head of the CIA, she should be dragged in front of an international tribunal, like the other people that made that fucking argument. And Gina Haspel should be in fucking prison. Should be in fucking prison. And shame on you, Barack Obama, for not prosecuting these people at the time when you had the authority and the ability. Because when you didn't do it, then all of a sudden, torture goes from unequivocally wrong and illegal and prosecutable to, just another political issue where there's varying opinions. Some people are against torture, some people are for torture. So yeah, it's now Republicans openly run on torture. That's what Donald Trump did. Yeah, torture. Yeah, I'm going to do a lot worse than waterboarding too. Yeah. So because you didn't prosecute, well, that doesn't disincentivize people from doing it in the future, which is exactly the fucking problem. We look forward, not backwards. That's what Obama said. By that logic, you can't prosecute any crime. Every crime, by definition, happens in the past. You fucking moron. But no, protect the elites, protect the establishment. Listen, man, our country has turned into a sick joke. A torturing war criminal might be approved to be the next head of the CIA with some Democratic votes, the opposition party. If you can't resist this, if you can't all get together and resist this, you're fucking useless. You're useless. You're utterly useless.